Sydney Kingsford Airport, Addis Information Romeo, time 1339 Zulu, wind 370 at 6, visibility 21, temperature 16, dew point 11, QNH 1028. Remarks, no pattern work. Landing runways 34 right and 34 left, departing runways 34 right and 34 left, advise on initial contact, you have information Romeo. Sydney Kingsford Airport, Addis Information Romeo, time 1339 Zulu, wind 370 at 6, visibility 21, temperature 16, dew point 11, QNH 1028. Remarks, no pattern work. Landing runways 34 right and 34 left, departing runways 34 right and 34 left, advise on initial contact, you have information Romeo. Sydney Kingsford Airport, Addis Information Romeo, time 1339 Zulu, wind 370 at 6, visibility 21, temperature 16, dew point 11, QNH 1028. Remarks, no pattern work. Landing runways 34 right and 34 left, departing runways 34 right and 34 left, advise on initial contact, you have information Romeo. Sydney Kingsford Airport, Addis Information Romeo, time 13.
Speedbird 2393, request permission to cross runway 25. Speedbird 2393, cross runway 7. Crossing runway 7, Speedbird 2393.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 1, ready for pushback with information Romeo.
Sydney Kingsford ground, November 919 Papa Romeo, ready to taxi with information Romeo.
Speedbird 2393, taxi to parking, at your discretion. Sydney Kingsford ground, United 870, ready for pushback with information Romeo. Red Cap 437, request permission to cross runway 25.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Transair 537, request taxi to remote 11 at the Terminal 1. Taxiing to runway 34 left, November 919 Papa Romeo. Sydney Kingsford ground, All Nippon 257, ready for pushback with information Romeo.
Sydney Kingsford ground, American 57, ready for pushback with information Romeo.
Stand by, Foxtrot November India November Oscar.
Qatar 417, please follow instructions. Qatar 417, make 180.
Holding position, Qantas 1.
Red Cap 437, request permission to cross runway 7. All Nippon 257, pushback approved, tail to the east.
Pushback approved, tail to the east, All Nippon 257.
Qantas 171 Heavy, expect progressive taxi instructions.
Roger, Qantas 171 Heavy.
Red cap 437, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, red cap 437.
Emirates 1, request frequency change. Emirates 1, you are already instructed to change frequency.
Pushback approved, tail to the north, Qantas 1.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 12 Super, request taxi to Bay 9 at the International Terminal.
I'm sorry, Emirates 1.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Malaysian 517 Heavy, ready for pushback with information Romeo, requesting runway 34 left. November 919 Papa Romeo, request permission to cross runway 7. Sydney Kingsford ground, Emirates 53 Sierra Heavy, ready to taxi with information Romeo. Sydney Kingsford ground, V1 123 Super, request taxi to Bay 31 at the International Terminal. Taxiing to runway 34 left, Qantas 25 Romeo Kilo Heavy.
B9 123 Super, taxi to International Terminal Bay 31. Qantas 12 Super, follow aircraft ahead. November 919 Papa Romeo, cross runway 7. Sydney Kingsford ground, November 98281, ready for pushback with information Romeo, requesting runway 34 left. Air India 786 Heavy, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, November 919 Papa Romeo.
Crossing runway 7, Air India 786 Heavy.
Taxiing to runway 34 left, Emirates 53 Sierra Heavy.
Pushback approved, tail to the north, November 98281.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 171 Heavy, request taxi to parking.
Pushback approved, tail to the north, American 57. Sydney Kingsford ground, Emiri 1 Super, ready to taxi with information Romeo.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Air France 274, request taxi to Bay 51 at the International Terminal.
Sydney Kingsford ground, United 870, ready to taxi with information Romeo. United 870,
Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 1, ready to taxi with information Romeo.
Foxtrot November India November Oscar, please check the user guide from the home screen for help using ATC instructions. Sydney Kingsford ground, November 404 Victor Tango, ready for pushback with information Romeo, requesting runway 34 left.
Left on the next.
Qantas 1, taxi to runway.
Taxiing to runway 34 left, Qantas 1.
American 57, taxi to runway 34 left, contact tower when ready. United 870, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, United 870. Taxiing to runway 34 left, American 57.
Qantas QF1 Romeo Kilo Heavy, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, Qantas 25 Romeo Kilo Heavy.
Delta Romeo Delta Mike Golf, pushback approved, tail to the north.
Pushback approved, tail to the north, Delta Romeo Delta Mike Golf.
Sydney Kingsford ground, November 98281, ready to taxi to runway 34 left with information Romeo.
American 57, request permission to cross runway 7. Qantas 12 Super, request permission to cross runway 7.
Sydney Kingsford ground, November 404 Victor Tango, ready for pushback with information Romeo, requesting runway 34 left.
Thank you, Qantas 171 Heavy. Qantas 25 Romeo Kilo Heavy, request frequency change.
Qantas 12 Super, contact Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7.
Sydney Kingsford Ground, Emirates 414, request taxi to Bay 8 at the International Terminal. Contacting Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7, Qantas 12 Super.
Qantas 25 Romeo Kilo Heavy, contact Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7. American 57, cross runway 7.
Sydney Kingsford Ground, All Nippon 257, ready to taxi with information Romeo.
November 404 Victor Tango, pushback approved, tail to the north.
Qantas 1, request permission to cross runway 7.
Qantas 1, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, Qantas 1.
Qantas 1, give way to aircraft exiting runway 34 left.
Give way to aircraft exiting runway 34 left, Qantas 1.
Sydney Kingsford Ground, Delta Romeo Delta Mike Golf, ready to taxi with information Romeo. Sydney Kingsford Ground, Etihad 455, ready for pushback with information Romeo. Emirates 414, taxi to International Terminal Bay 8.
Taxiing to International Terminal Bay 8, Emirates 414.
Delta Romeo Delta Mike Golf, hold position.
Sydney Kingsford Ground, Malaysian 517 Heavy, ready to taxi to runway 34 left with information Romeo.
Etihad 455, pushback approved, tail to the north. Pushback approved, tail to the north, Etihad 455. Taxiing to International Terminal Bay 31, Sydney Kingsford Ground. Holding position, Delta Romeo Delta Mike Golf. Sydney Kingsford Ground, cross runway 7. Qantas 171 Heavy, cross runway 7.
Emirates 414, request permission to cross runway 7. Crossing runway 7, Qantas 171 Heavy.
Malaysian 517 Heavy, taxi to runway 34 right, contact tower when ready. Emirates 414, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, Emirates 414. Taxiing to runway 34 right, Malaysian 517 Heavy. All Nippon 257, request permission to cross runway 7.
November 98281, request permission to cross runway 7.
Qatari 375, request permission to cross runway 7.
November 98281, cross runway 7. All Nippon 257, cross runway 7. Crossing runway 7, November 98281.
Crossing runway 7, All Nippon 257.
Emirates 414, taxi to International Terminal Bay 8 via Golf, Alpha. Sydney Kingsford Ground, Qantas 113, ready for pushback with information Romeo. Sydney Kingsford Ground, Delta Romeo Delta Mike Golf, ready to taxi with information Romeo.
Crossing runway 7, Qatari 375. Malaysian 517 Heavy, request permission to cross runway 25.
Qantas 171 Heavy, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, Qantas 171 Heavy. Crossing runway 7, Malaysian 517 Heavy.
Qantas 113, pushback approved.
Holding position, Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec.
Delta Romeo Delta Mike Golf, taxi to runway 34 left, contact tower when ready.
Qantas 25 Romeo Kilo Heavy, request permission to cross runway 7.
Qantas 25 Romeo Kilo Heavy, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, Qantas 25 Romeo Kilo Heavy. Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 762, ready for pushback with information Romeo. Sydney Kingsford ground, velocity 946, request taxi to stand 98 of the domestic 6.
Etihad 455, taxi to runway 34 left, contact tower when ready. November 404 Victor Tango, taxi to runway 34 left, contact tower when ready.
Taxiing to runway 34 left, Etihad 455.
November 404 Victor Tango, give way to aircraft on your left.
Give way to aircraft, November 404 Victor Tango.
Velocity 946, taxi to domestic 6 stand 98.
Qantas 446 Super, you're on an active airport, please contact Sydney Kingsford ground on 126.5.
Qantas 762, pushback approved, tail to the north.
Air France 274, request permission to cross runway 34 left.
Air France 274, contact Sydney Kingsford tower on 124.7. Pushback approved, tail to the east, Link 1508. Qantas 446 Super, day intentions.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 446 Super, ready to taxi with information Romeo. Crossing runway 7, November 404 Victor Tango.
Etihad 455, give way to aircraft on your left.
Give way to aircraft, Etihad 455. Sydney Kingsford ground, Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, ready to taxi to runway 34 left with information Romeo.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Air India 232 India November, request taxi to remote stand 75A at the international remote.
Qantas 446 Super, taxi to parking, at your discretion.
Etihad 455, request permission to cross runway 7.
Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, taxi to runway 34 right, contact tower when ready. Etihad 455, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, Etihad 455. Sydney Kingsford ground, Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, ready to taxi to runway 34 left with information Romeo. Velocity 946, request permission to cross runway 7.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Link 1508, ready to taxi to runway 34 right.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec, ready to taxi with information Romeo.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, ready to taxi to runway 34 left with information Romeo.
Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec, taxi to runway 34 left, contact tower when ready. Velocity 946, cross runway 7. Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, velocity 946.
Taxiing to runway 34 left, Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec.
I'm sorry, Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy.
Link 1508, taxi to runway 34 right, contact tower when ready.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Emirates 414 Echo Kilo Heavy, request taxi to Bay 10 at the International Terminal. Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 158 Super, request taxi to Bay 10 at the International Terminal. Sydney Kingsford ground, Emirates 256, request taxi to Bay 7A at the Terminal 3. Crossing runway 7, Emirates 414 Echo Kilo Heavy.
Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, please follow instructions or you will be reported. Qantas 158 Super, taxi to International Terminal Bay 10.
Taxiing to International Terminal Bay 10, Qantas 158 Super.
Emirates 256, taxi to Terminal 3 Bay 7A.
Taxiing to Terminal 3 Bay 7A, Emirates 256. Sydney Kingsford ground, Golf Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, ready to taxi to runway 34 left with information Romeo.
Qantas 762, hold position.
Holding position, Qantas 762. Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 69, request taxi to parking.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Qantas 113, ready to taxi to runway 34 left with information Romeo. Qantas 69, taxi to waypoint.
Taxiing to waypoint, Qantas 69.
Qantas 113, runway 34 left, taxi via Juliet, Alpha, Alpha 6, contact tower when ready. November 919 Papa Romeo, contact Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7. Amiri 1 Super, contact Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7.
Qantas 158 Super, request permission to cross runway 7.
Taxiing to runway 34 left Bay Juliet, Alpha, Alpha 6, Qantas 113.
Contacting Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7, November 919 Papa Romeo.
Qantas 446 Super, please check the user guide from the home screen to help using ATC instructions. Qantas 158 Super, cross runway 7.
Crossing runway 7, Qantas 158 Super.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Cayman 879 Heavy, ready for pushback with information Romeo, requesting runway 34 left. Cayman 879 Heavy, pushback approved, tail to the north.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Singapore 027 Heavy, request taxi to Bay 10 at the International Terminal. Sydney Kingsford ground, Golf Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, ready for pushback with information Romeo.
Golf Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy, pushback approved, tail to the east. Emirates 256, give way to aircraft on your left.
Pushback approved, tail to the east, Golf Golf Alpha Foxtrot Lima Heavy. Air France 274, you're on an active airport, please contact Sydney Kingsford ground on 126.5.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec, ready to taxi with information Romeo.
Emirates 256, request permission to cross runway 7.
Continue taxi, Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec.
Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec, thank you.
Give way to aircraft, Air France 274.
Emirates 256, please follow instructions or you will be reported.
Crossing runway 7, Emirates 256.
Sydney Kingsford ground, Velocity 429, request taxi to Bay 44 at the Terminal 2. Velocity 724 X-ray, taxi to waypoint via Lima, Bravo. Velocity 429, taxi to Terminal 2 Bay 44.
Taxiing to waypoint via Lima, Bravo, velocity 724 X-ray.
Crossing runway 7, Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec.
Singapore 242 Sierra Quebec, give way to aircraft ahead. Singapore 027 Heavy, expect progressive taxi instructions. Qantas 1, contact Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7.
Contacting Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7, Qantas 1.
Roger, Amiri 1 Super.
Qantas 158 Super, cross runway 34 left, please expedite.
Crossing runway 34 left, Qantas 158 Super.
Roger, Air India 786 Heavy.
Turkish 101 Heavy, thank you.
Qantas 158 Super, please expedite. Victor Tango Golf Oscar Delta, wind 310 at 6, runway 34 left, cleared for takeoff, fly runway heading until at or above 1,000 feet.
Turkish 101 Heavy, request frequency change.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 34 left, Victor Tango Golf Oscar Delta.
Malaysian 517 Heavy, line up and wait runway 34 right.
Line up and wait runway 34 right, Malaysian 517 Heavy.
Turkish 101 Heavy, contact Sydney Kingsford ground on 126.5. United 005 Alpha Uniform, line up and wait runway 34 left.
Contacting Sydney Kingsford ground on 126.5, Turkish 101 Heavy.
Line up and wait runway 34 left, United 005 Alpha Uniform.
Velocity 455, when able turn left and contact ground, please expedite.
Wilco, velocity 455.
United 005 Alpha Uniform, line 310 at 6, runway 34 left, cleared for immediate takeoff.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 34 left, United 005 Alpha Uniform.
November 919 Papa Romeo, line up and wait runway 34 right. November 919 Papa Romeo, correction, stand by. November 919 Papa Romeo, line up and wait runway 34 left.
Line up and wait runway 34 left, November 919 Papa Romeo.
Continue taxi, Air India 786 Heavy.
Malaysian 517 Heavy, line 310 at 6, runway 34 right, cleared for takeoff, fly runway heading until at or above 1,000 feet.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 34 right, Malaysian 517 Heavy.
November 919 Papa Romeo, line 310 at 6, runway 34 left, cleared for takeoff, fly runway heading until at or above 1,000 feet. Air India 786 Heavy, line up and wait runway 34 right. Qantas 446 Super, line up and wait runway 34 left.
Line up and wait runway 34 left, Air India 786 Heavy.
Line up and wait runway 34 right, Qantas 446 Super.
Air India 786 Heavy, line 310 at 6, runway 34 left, cleared for immediate takeoff. United 005 Alpha Uniform, frequency change approved, good day.
Frequency change approved United 005 Alpha Uniform, good day.
Frequency change approved Victor Tango Golf Oscar Delta, good day.
Amiri 1 Super, line up and wait runway 34 left.
Line up and wait runway 34 left, Amiri 1 Super.
November 98281, continue taxi. Amiri 1 Super, please expedite. Continue taxi, November 98281. Qantas 446 Super, line 310 at 6, runway 34 right, cleared for takeoff, fly runway heading until at or above 1,000 feet.
Roger, American 57.
Air India 786 Heavy, thank you.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 34 left, Amiri 1 Super. Line up and wait runway 34 left, United 870.
Q-Link 1508, line 310 at 6, runway 34 right, cleared for takeoff, fly runway heading until at or above 1,000 feet. United 870, line 310 at 6, runway 34 left, cleared for takeoff, fly runway heading until at or above 1,000 feet.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 34 right, Q-Link 1508. Line up and wait runway 34 left, American 57.
American 57, please expedite. Qantas 446 Super, thank you. Qantas 1, line up and wait runway 34.
Line up and wait runway 34 left, Qantas 1.
American 57, hold short of runway 34 left. Singapore 027 Heavy, hold short of runway 34 left.
Holding short runway 34 left, Singapore 027 Heavy. I'm sorry, American 57.
Q-Link 1508, thank you. Q-Link 1508, frequency change approved, good day. Frequency change approved, Q-Link 1508, good day. Singapore 027 Heavy, cross runway 34 left, please expedite.
Qantas 5 Heavy, you're in an active airspace. Please contact Sydney Kingsford Tower on 124.7. Crossing runway 34 left.
Qantas 1, wind 310 at 6.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 34 left, Qantas 1.
Asiana 199 Tango Juliet Heavy, wind 310 at 6. Number 1, runway 34 left, cleared to land.
Turkish 101 Heavy, request permission to cross runway 34 left.
November 98281, line up and wait runway 34 right.
Number 1, clear to land, runway 34 left, Asiana 199 Tango Juliet Heavy.
November 98281, correction, stand by. November 98281, line up and wait runway 34 left. Line up and wait runway 34 left, November 98281.
Contacting Sydney Kingsford ground on 126.5, Singapore 027 Heavy.
November 98281, line 310 at 6, runway 34 left, cleared for immediate takeoff.
Sydney Kingsford Tower, velocity 989, inbound on the ILS.
Qantas 1, frequency change approved. Qantas 1, thank you. United is 70, thank you. United is 70, frequency change approved, good day.
Frequency change approved, United 870, good day.
November.
Thank you, good day, Qantas 1.
Velocity 989, maintain best forward speed.
Maintain best forward speed, velocity 989. Sydney Kingsford Tower, all Nippon 257, ready for departure at runway 34 left, departing east.
All Nippon 257, hold short of runway 34 left.
Malaysian 517 Heavy, request frequency change. Holding short runway 34 left, all Nippon 257. Stand by, Golf Alpha Foxtrot. Sydney Kingsford Tower, Hawaiian 475, inbound on the GPS runway 34 right with information Romeo.
Hawaiian 475, maintain slowest practical speed.
Maintain slowest practical speed, Hawaiian 475.
Hawaiian 475, line 310 at 6, number 2, runway 34 right, cleared to land.
Number 2, cleared to land, runway 34 right, Hawaiian 475.